hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on the time zone. This is Daniel, and this is the learning group. I know it's from Decentralized Trust. Today's event is a little bit special because it's a human event. On the one hand, I do on online as usual, but on the other hand, we are part of the Budapest blockchain, right? So this is like first day of the Budapest blockchain week, and then actually this one is the big tech day where we have like some presentations on different topics. And basically, as I was learning from establishing Decentralized Trust on zero knowledge, different zero knowledge profit topics, I thought it was a bad idea to have this as a event and then both online and on site as well.
Hey Daniel, just not to interrupt, but just to let you know, the sound quality is pretty choppy. People are posting online that it's really hard to hear what you're saying.
I'm not quite sure if I can improve it very much other than that. So I mean, what we can postpone this presentation, the online presentation, or I can do it as it is.
I mean, your call. I mean, if you want to rerun this later as a virtual only, that we could do that, or yeah, is there no way to? There's no microphone locally, or?
Okay, so then let me just postpone the online one, and then I just want on site.
Okay, yeah, people are commenting in Zoom chat that they're not understanding anything, and I'm catching only a few words.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's suggesting on Zoom chat that you could try turning your mic level down. Yeah, somebody's also suggesting if you could use headphones, maybe there's some distortion coming that way. And you're muted, Daniel, if you're trying to speak. I'm not hearing anything right now.
So how about now? I just fine-tuned a little bit my microphone, and then basically I don't have headset at the moment, unfortunately. So I have to keep with this setup, or otherwise we can postpone actually this meeting.
It does sound better. It's a lot better. Yeah. Do people online, what's your preference? Do you want to keep going as is, or do you want to reschedule this as a online only where the quality might be better?
I mean, it's up to you or up to the community. I mean, if you think it's better at the moment, if I just keep speaking, if you think it's better, then we can keep as it is.
Yeah, I see people. Yeah, people are saying it's fine now. But yeah, why don't we keep going? People are saying it's better. Yeah, people are saying go for it. Okay,
so then let me just continue, or let me just restart it, and then I just apologize for the technical difficulties. So again, hey everyone, this is Daniel, and this is the Zero Knowledge Learning Group for the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. It's at the moment, I apologize for the difficulty, it's just a little bit more complicated, as this is basically a hybrid event. It's part of the Budapest Blockchain Week. We are at the first day, which is the Deep Tech Day. We had like a few different zero knowledge topics and presentations. And the last presentation is for me, which is, I mean, serves like, you know, two things. On the one hand, it's part of the Budapest Blockchain Week. On the other hand, it's online and streamed and basically part of the zero knowledge learning group for the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust as well. Today's topic is proof of reserve and proof of solvency, and I'm gonna have like a small presentation basically on this topic. It's gonna be like 40 minutes probably. But first, I mean, let me just start with a little bit like logistics. So again, besides the Budapest Blockchain Week, this is a zero knowledge learning group. So basically the idea is just we have like one meetup each month, usually on Thursdays. Today is like an exception. It's like Tuesday anyway. But generally we do it like on Thursday from 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Central European time. The logistic is like 1 hour presentation. There might be a short discussion as well, although today it's not gonna be time probably for discussion. We cover different topics on zero knowledge proofs, mostly from programmers and application developers perspective, with some theory. Basically, I'm not a mathematician, so I usually don't go very much in depth of the different mathematical things. So the coordination is generally on Discord. So basically, if you want to keep following what's happening in the learning group, then you can just get an invitation for the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust Discord channel. And if you have that under community, you find a zero knowledge learning group, and basically you find there all of the different updates. Otherwise, we are on Meetup. So you will find these meetups each month in the different meetup groups of Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. And basically, we have a repository with all of the content. The repository is under LFDT Labs. So you find zero knowledge learning groups under LFDT Labs, and you find all of the content practically there. The content throughout the year looks that way. So we started somehow in February with some theory, March, April with polynomial commitments and interactive oracle proofs. In May, we focused on programming. In June, in programming as well, in Circum. July and August was practically programming in Noir. In September, applications. At the moment, we cover proof of reserve and proof of solvency. In October, November, and December, we're gonna cover different other applications for zero knowledge, probably off-chain transactions, roll-up, and perhaps zero knowledge machine learning or integrating machine learning with blockchain protocols via zero knowledge proofs. That's gonna be somehow for October, November, and December. Again, mostly from an application perspective.
Daniel, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but we're getting a request from the Zoom chat, maybe speaking just a little bit softer or reducing the mic sensitivity just a little bit more.
Okay. Just fine tune. So let me just try and let me just continue. So this is the agenda for today. I have just one slide summarizing zero knowledge proof. Then we cover like centralized exchanges and centralized custodians. Then there's one slide on proof of reserve, proof of liability, proof of solvency, on EdTech models. We're not gonna have time for demo. And at the end, as usual, I have like one challenge, some links, resources, literatures, and questions and answers. So again, probably we're not gonna have time for questions and answers, as basically this is like a little tricky hybrid setup. But if you have any questions, just feel free either to drop some message in the chat here in the Zoom call, or you can use practically this Discord channel as well, having like any questions that you have. So let me just start. And basically, this is like, classical summary of zero knowledge proofs. So basically, in zero knowledge proofs, we think of like a two-row model. We get like a prover, let's call it Alice. We have like Bob, let's call it verifier. And the prover practically wants to prove somehow a statement. For instance, a statement that I know a parameter of a hash function in a way that this proof is somehow small and easily verifiable, and it might have some other properties, some privacy properties as well. So perhaps some of the inputs of these statements or this computation is not revealed to the verifier, to Bob. As an example, for instance, Alice might know a preimage of a hash function, and then she can prove to Bob, to the verifier, that she knows this preimage of a hash function in a way that Bob will be sure that basically Alice knows the preimage, but Bob will not know the preimage of the hash function. There are several ways of doing it. There are like interactive and non-interactive models. There are probabilistic and non-probabilistic models as well. And then there are many differences like improve size, improving and verification time. Of course, if you speak of like blockchain applications, we like models that are non-interactive. So there aren't like many message changing here, like with Alice, between Alice and Bob, between the prover and verifier. But there's just one message, which is the prover says that like she knows some kind of effect, and the verifier either believes it or not. It's because if we want to, or if you think of that the verification of the blockchain, then we don't want to have like iterations, and then we want to have our proof actually small and fast to verify. That's like SNARK basically, or that's like, if you think of SNARK, that's succinct non-interactive argument of knowledge. It says actually that it's succinct, means that practically it's small and fast to verify. Non-interactive is that we don't need to like many iterations. We just want to create the proof, and the proof should be believed or not. And the argument of knowledge means that there's some kind of an input, which is either private or non-private. So if you see them, basically ZK is not necessary. Zero knowledge means that basically our input is private, but there's like applications as well where this input is not necessarily private. So that was a summary on zero knowledge proofs. Again, if you want to know more, there are like many meetups and recordings. Actually, I mean, this meetup is recorded as well, and you will find actually on the YouTube channel of Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. So let me see an application area. And in an application area, let me just focus on a business which is like centralized exchanges or centralized custodians. So how does a centralized exchange or centralized custodian work? Basically, it stores somehow crypto on behalf of customers. So usually if you go to, I don't know, Binance, then basically you transfer your crypto to Binance, and basically Binance gonna owns practically your private keys. So you depend somehow on Binance as a centralized exchange in a way that you don't own anymore actually these private keys of your crypto asset. So if you think of a little bit like as a balance sheet approach, we can say that a centralized exchange or a centralized custodian might have like, you know, assets and liabilities. So the assets are basically the crypto asset that we transfer to this centralized custodian. That's crypto practically. And the point is how basically an centralized exchange administrates basically the assets, the crypto assets, is very much, or might be very much independent from the customer accounts. So basically we can say there's an asset side where practically most of these centralized exchanges have something which is like cold wallet, hot wallet, deposit wallets, and so on and so forth. So these are not reflected by customer liabilities in a one-to-one basis. So that's like an asset side. And we got something which is a liability, and liability is practically the customer accounts. So basically, if we just transfer like crypto to a centralized custodian or exchange, then the exchange gonna own us with some crypto. And again, so usually they have something which is like a cold wallet. and cold wallet might contain assets from many thousands or many hundreds of different customers. So there's no like one-to-one direction or association between customer accounts and assets that is stored practically at a centralized exchange. So for this reason, we can use this balance sheet approach. We get some hot wallet, cold wallet architecture, and some customer accounts, which is like liabilities. Practically, the exchange owns crypto for the customers. And what we want to do, we want to somehow prove, and of course, with cryptography and with some zero-knowledge proofs as well, that the assets that is stored at an exchange is bigger than the liability of all of the customer accounts. So somehow we want to prove that the exchange or the custodian is solvent. So practically they have like enough crypto to pay back all the liabilities of the customers. That's what we want to do. Anyway, it's just an analogy. So balance sheet is not necessarily balance sheet from an accounting perspective, because, or from a pure legal perspective, because it might not be like liability legally, but it might be something which is custody, which works a little bit differently from a legal point of view. But as a high-level model, we can use this balance sheet approach, modeling basically a crypto exchange or a crypto custodian. So what we want to do is very simple. We want to somehow prove that the exchange has enough assets. We want to prove that the liability is somehow correct. So basically, each customer is somehow listed in this list of liabilities. And then we want to prove somehow that all of the assets are bigger than all of the liabilities. It's pretty simple. These are the three steps that we want to somehow prove more or less in a cryptographic sense, or as much as possible with cryptography, because that's something which is trustless. So proving the asset side, we have something which is proof of reserve. So how can we prove that an exchange has like enough reserve? So the exchange has like cryptocurrency. So I mean, proving that the exchange has like a reserve can be actually pretty simple. What the exchange needs to do are just publish the public keys or the addresses of different cryptographies, and then they need to practically create a signature that they really has the control on these assets. So for instance, if I claim that I have like 100 Bitcoins, what I can do, I can publish my public addresses of my Bitcoins. Everybody practically can check that I have like 100 Bitcoins on these addresses. And what I need to do additionally, I just need to create like a signature with my private keys, practically proving that I have really some kind of a control or cryptographic control on these assets. So that's clearly a possibility. The problem is that it's not so perfect from a privacy perspective. So most of the exchanges don't like that basically they publish the public addresses or public keys that they have for the whole world. It's again not very much practical from a privacy perspective. So instead, what we need to do basically, we just want to somehow prove that we have like 100 Bitcoins in our assets in a way that our public address is not revealed. And that's something which can be done by zero-knowledge proofs. So basically, with zero-knowledge proofs, you can create such a proof. It looks that way basically that, for instance, in Ethereum, if you want to create such a proof, you can use basically the fact that Ethereum stores account balances practically in a Merkle Patricia tree. So basically, you can prove that you have an address which is with zero-knowledge proof, and this address is in the latest block in this Merkle Patricia tree, and you can create and you have practically, or you can create a signature that you have control on these assets as well. And if you have these both things practically, then you can create a proof of reserve, proving that you have like 100 Ether on the Ethereum blockchain in a crypto or with a cryptographic proof, but basically without revealing your addresses to anybody. So that's proof of reserve. Again, that's one part of the system. The second one is proof of liability. So proof of liability is more tricky for the first run. Basically, what we need to, or what we can prove, that basically a customer can check that the cheese balance is actually administrated by the exchange. So for the first run, what the exchange could do, they could just create like a list of all liabilities. So like saying that I as an exchange owe with like 1 Bitcoin to Alice, 2 Bitcoin for Bob, 3 Bitcoins to Mallory, and so on and so forth. And I could create a list on that. Of course, I don't want to have like names on this list. So probably instead of Alice, Bob, and Mallory, I would use kind of a pseudonymization in a way that practically Alice and Bob and Mallory will know practically their pseudonym, so they can check if they really have the balance on this list of balances. But otherwise, it's not leaked very much in a privacy sense. So that's one way of doing it. Again, practically just think of this list of liabilities. So basically, this is like Alice 1 Bitcoin, Bob 2 Bitcoin, and Mallory 3 Bitcoin. If you don't use like Alice, Bob, and Mallory, but some kind of a pseudonym, then they can basically check if they are on this list of liabilities. So that's one way of doing it. Of course, the problem is with that is that it's very heavy. So I mean, listing like, I don't know, million of users practically is not practical. So instead, but we have the same idea, but instead of like creating a list, what we do is that we create somehow Merkle tree. And this is kind of a tricky Merkle tree. So we don't only use like Alice and Bob, but practically what we store in the leaves of the Merkle tree is that the customer name and the amount of crypto or crypto asset that the exchange practically owns for this customer. And then it's a little bit like special Merkle tree. So basically, I mean, let me just imagine that in this leaf we have like the balance from Alice. So then we own to Alice with 1 Bitcoin, we own to Bob with 2 Bitcoin, we own to Mallory with 3 Bitcoins, and that's what we list on the leaves of this Merkle tree. And basically, we just create a hash, a Merkle tree, and of course, like we just double hash these elements, but in a way that basically the owned that we just sum up the owned Bitcoin basically. So if we have like Alice and 1 Bitcoin, and then if we have Bob and 2 Bitcoins here, then basically the first double hashing of these 2 leaves, so the next element of the Merkle tree, gonna have the sum of 3 Bitcoins. We just sum up the elements of all of the leaves, and so on and so forth. So basically, we just sum up all the liabilities, and we call it as a special cryptographic structure. It calls the summation Merkle tree. Again, summation Merkle tree is a normal Merkle tree, but we have something which is like a balance, and the number of balances of all of the leaves and all of the subtrees are basically summarized. And at the top, at the Merkle tree root, we just have the total number of liabilities, basically. And as we have this summation Merkle tree, we can just verify pretty fast. Like, for instance, Alice can verify pretty fast that if she knows, or if she thinks that the exchange owns for her like with 1 Bitcoin, and she knows her pseudonym, then she can practically check with a simple Merkle tree algorithm that she is really on this Merkle tree, summation Merkle tree of all of the liabilities practically. And of course, the exchange can practically post this liability, this all of the liabilities somehow. And of course, if you just go back, I mean, we have just one algorithm for kind of proving that we have like crypto assets, and we have like kind of a summation Merkle tree for all of the customer liabilities, which is summed up with the total liabilities. What we need to do, we just need to prove that the sum of assets is bigger than the sum of liabilities. And that's what we call as proof of solvency. So basically, we just combine proofs, proofs of reserve and proof of liabilities, and we don't publish, or we don't necessarily publish them directly, but we might as well create one more proof, one more zero knowledge proof, proving that all of the assets or the sum of assets is bigger than the sum of liabilities. And if you have this, if we have this proof, that's practically a kind of cryptographic proof of liability, proof of solvency. So we know basically in a cryptographic sense that basically the exchange is solvent, so they really have like more assets than liabilities. It's pretty much private, so we hide actually the exact amount of reserves. I mean, the exact amount of reserves is not, it can be hidden, but usually it's not necessarily hidden, but we hide for sure the individual liabilities. So it's not something which is published. We just publish the whole number of liabilities basically. We hide the crypto addresses of the balances. Again, the customer addresses are balances are not visible to everyone, only to a given customers. And it's basically one important thing to mention. So we usually we say that we need like SNARKs, which is like small and very fast to verify for on-chain verification. One important thing, we don't necessarily need here like on-chain verification, because basically this can be verified by a customer on a simple computer as well, and it might take like half an hour as well. Okay, not necessarily half an hour, but like 10 minutes. That's not necessarily such a big problem. So we don't have like a property that such proofs need to be verified like in one block time, because it's not necessarily verified on chain. It needs to be verified by practically a customer. So it means we don't necessarily need like SNARKs. I mean, very succinct, very small and fast to verify algorithms. We can use something which is less efficient, like SNARK, for instance, or other zero knowledge proof systems. So far so good. I would have like 2 more slides from a practical point of view. So I mean, this sounds great for the first run. We have like basically kind of a proof that our exchange is solvent. So everyone can trust it. It looks great. It works great. So what could go wrong? It's important to emphasize that these systems are not perfect. So we can have like attack models, or we can have like different possibilities to game the system. And then one way of gaming the system is that it's important to recognize that querying the liability structure depends on the customers. So basically, if there's a customer from who we know that he doesn't query very much this liability structure, and again, I'm an exchange, and I can basically, sorry, I can basically see who asked my balances, or who asked the balances, which customer asked the balances. So for instance, if I know that, hey, there's a customer then, and this customer practically never queries the liability, then, and this customer is like $1 million, then I might as well omit, I just don't include this customer balance in the liability tree, because I mean he will not query it anyway. So basically I can game the liability tree as I just create this liability tree. So if it's not queried, it might be omitted from the liability tree. One other way of gaming the system there might be a negative amount of balance in this matrix summation tree. It's a little bit tricky, but if I'm an exchange and I just put one fictive account to this matrix summation tree, which has like, I don't know, minus $1 million, then the matrix summation tree works pretty well. It shows a liability which is like with $1 million less than I has basically, or that I own. There's actually improvement for this one. So usually the improvement is that not just a matrix summation tree is created, but there's like additional zero knowledge proofs, for instance, that all balances are positive, and there's some other improvements as well. One other thing is that creating such a liability proof or solvency proof is intensive, so it requires some computation and some time. So it's a question who does this. For instance, one way that basically the exchange creates this proof of solvency on their own. If that's the case, the exchange might game a little bit this system as well. And it might happen that this liability proof or solvency proof is created by the third-party company. If that's the case, then basically the problem might be that the third-party company might have some information which is not public, not public, so there are some privacy problems with that. And of course, there can be some attacks or gaming on the asset side as well. So basically, what I prove in these models is that I have directly or indirectly some control on some assets. But basically, this might not be equal with the fact that I own this asset. So it might happen that basically I don't own this asset, but like, I don't know, a friend of mine own this asset, and then he creates a proof for me. Why not? In this sense, I don't own this asset, but I mean, there's a proof despite. It might happen that basically I as an exchange, I don't own this asset, but basically as I just create the proof, I borrow from another company a few $1 million, for instance. I create the proof with the borrowed asset, and then I just repay this borrowed asset at the end of the proof. It might happen as well. And again, that's an attack model. Again, this proof of solvency algorithm. And then there might be other scenarios for this model. So for instance, even if I fully own some of the assets and I can create the proof, I might double use these assets. So for instance, I just use it as a custody, but perhaps I use it in some other scenarios as well, or I just land it somehow in a non-custodial way, in a way that I can, despite create the proof. So there might be some other ways to game this model. So it's important to know that basically these systems are not perfect, and beside the cryptographic magic, there are basically simple ways as well to game the system. So I don't have demo actually at the moment. So it's a pretty fast presentation, and I apologize for the technical problems. I have one challenge basically. It looks that way that most of the biggest exchanges have kind of a proof of solvency model. So basically the challenge for today is that investigate and experiment with a proof of solvency system of an exchange or a centralized crypto custodian on your own. So that's like the challenge for the learning group. And of course, at the end, I have some links, resources, and literatures, so you can do some research on your own. And basically, that was end of the presentation. Apologize for the technical difficulties. It's just, again, that was like a hybrid event at the moment. And if there's any question, I try to answer. It's just I would ask that please drop in the chat. and then basically I can answer questions from the chat. In the next 5 minutes, if you have questions after that, I would encourage everybody to join to the Discord channel of the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. Just come to the Zero Knowledge Learning group, and then you can ask questions practically there as well. So, any questions? So if there's no sorry. Yeah, thanks. I got one positive feedback from the chat, so so hopefully at the end my network was stable enough and my microphone was stable enough as well that that you just got some information. So thanks for the positive feedback.
Yeah, Daniel, thanks for running this. Yeah, your audio did get better, and I think people were able to hear everything. And thanks. Oh, I see one question just came in.
Yeah, so the question is, there are examples of custodian proofs. So again, if you just pick like the top 10 exchanges, and then you just Google proof of reserve, like proof of reserve, proof of solvency, Binance, but I can say Kraken, and I can say or I can mention basically the other top 10 exchanges as well. So if you just Google them, proof of solvency, proof of reserve, you can find the information, and you can find real usage of these proofs. So yeah. So they are used, and then they are used more and more wider, I would say. It just, and that's basically something which is good, I would say. So it's a good practice to use this proof of solvency algorithms. It just, as a customer, you should pay attention that they might be not perfect. So it just not necessary enough if you blindly trust in such a proof without necessarily like questioning some of the attacks that I basically mentioned. So if there's no more questions, then I would like to thank you very much for the attention. Again, you can just ask questions anytime that you want on the Discord channel. And again, basically, I apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. So thanks for your attention, and then see you next month with some zero knowledge applications on the next meetup. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone.